Jay Zawaski's on the line. We're talking some hockey. Jay taking time out of his day. He's a guy you're going to want to follow on Twitter, at Jay Zawaski670. Also, you're going to want to catch the podcast, Madhouse Pod. Jay, good morning.
Good morning, guys. How are you? Good to talk to you again.
We're great. How are you doing?
I'm great. Even though I'm sweaty. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's tough down there, isn't it, buddy? I mean, we weren't expecting this chafing to happen in late September.
Oh, yeah, and I'm feeling like it's September, so I'm not allowed to wear shorts to work anymore, and it's just the best part of my day is when I get home and take my pants off. I'm going to be honest. It's just...
if I had a nickel for every time I've said that, no matter what the season. By the way...
this is too much.
What a great photo you put up, exactly, it says 24 hours ago. Happy third anniversary of my daughter being terrified of TAVO. Two things.
Yes, that was at Blackhawks training camp in South Bend 3 years ago. And my daughter she's around me all the time, so she hears what I talk about. And so these guys get built up a little bit. And I said, hey, there he is. You want to go meet him? She said, no. And we said, oh, come on. Someday you'll want a picture with him when he's in the Hall of Fame. Well, that didn't work out. But, so we took the picture, and she was hysterical.
Did she cry afterwards?
That was the best picture we could get was that one, where she was just sort of side-eyeing him. And he could have been more gracious, but kind of weird for a kid that young to be have a 3-year-old terrified of him.
Well, and your daughter is absolutely adorable. What a beautiful little girl.
She takes after Hope.
And
definitely.
And this beautiful little girl has this look on her face of, get away from me, dude.
Yeah, it was an awkward conversation with him. I think he was new to the country and learning the language, and just having his little child afraid of him could not have been the best welcome for him. But hey, we got the picture, and it's still paying off all these years later.
That is awesome. All right, we had you on to talk hockey, not weather, and your adorable daughter. So let's cut to let's cut to the
we could do that. We're game for hockey too.
We could. All right, real quick, give us the lowdown this upcoming Blackhawks season. What's new? What are we going to be like? What's missing? What are we surprised we're not seeing? Who's there that we remember from the past? And just a quick synopsis, the short what to expect from this season.
Sure. What's new is Brandon Saad is back. He was traded for Artemi Panarin this offseason, and that was a move that a lot of people were unsure about. I really like it because Saad brings a little bit of what the Blackhawks have always missed, is that big body up front, a guy that's willing to go in the corner and win pucks and they can score at a close to elite level. Panarin put up big numbers, but was more of a perimeter-type player, and the Hawks have a lot of those guys, and a lot of those guys coming through the system. Saad is something they needed, especially with the departure of Marian Hossa. It makes a world of sense. Patrick Sharp is back on a really low contract, coming off kind of a down year, an injury-plagued year with the Dallas Stars last year. Says to be 100%. People that have seen him say he looks better than he's looked in years. So if you can get 15 to 20 goals out of Patrick Sharp this year, that's a win. Nicholas Jalmerson's been traded to Arizona. His replacement is Connor Murphy. He'll make his debut for the Hawks tonight against the Red Wings. And they need him to be their third-best defenseman because, Joe, you asked me what's missing. What's missing is defensive depth. They've got a lot of questions on the blue line. Aside from Duncan Keith and the aging and declining Brent Seabrook, there's a lot of question marks there. There's a lot of positions open. So that's going to be kind of the story of training camp. It's who are going to be the other three defensemen to take over those jobs that are available. They brought in veteran defenseman Cody Franzen. It's pretty much assumed he'll get one of those top 6 spots. So really we're looking at 2 spots open for young players, and the Hawks always carry 2 extra defensemen. So 4 roster spots, but 2 starting spots available on the blue line. So there's a lot of things to look at this training camp. I wrote about it on 670thescore.com. Lots of stories. This is an interesting preseason for once because there's tons of roster battles happening for the Hawks right now.
Was I right to be absolutely stunned to see Hjalmarsson traded?
Yes. I would say I was stunned too. But when you sort of look ahead to it, it does make a little bit of sense in the sense that when he becomes a free agent, they're not going to be able to re-sign him. They're probably not going to want to for what he's going to command. You're getting max value for him when you traded him. So it does make some sense if you're looking big picture. Right now, they're certainly worse for not having him. He was, to me, their best defensive defender. He was the guy that wanted on the ice when you're up a goal late. Nicholas Hjalmarsson was the best defender on the team. So losing him is going to be a big loss for sure. But Connor Murphy's a good young player with some room to develop. Quenneville and new assistant coach Al Samuelson has had some luck developing young defensemen. So hopefully Connor Murphy becomes a guy they hope he will be. I don't know if he'll ever be as good as Nicholas Hjalmarsson, but if he can be anything close to that, you've got it locked down for years to come, and that's a good place to be for the Hawks. So they do need at some point to start looking at reloading here. Your core is aging. Duncan Keith is aging. Brent Seabrook, Duncan Keith is 34 years old. It seems like, just yesterday he was 23 and tearing up the league. Brent Seabrook is 32. Even Jonathan Toews is 29. So these guys their careers are going quickly. With all the success they've had, these guys are starting to show their age. They're going to start to enter that downswing part of their career, so they do have to start reloading at some point. So with that in mind, as much as it's going to hurt this year to lose Hjalmarsson, I'm glad they were able to sort of maximize the return for him at this point.
I would categorize myself as a casual Blackhawks fan. I don't know the depth of the roster or whatnot, but there's always a couple guys every year that play very well, rise to prominence, and people like me get to know about them. Who on the team this year you think will be rising to the casual fans on their radar?
All right, two guys to keep an eye on. Number one is Nick Schmaltz, who had a really good rookie year last year with the Hawks. 28 points in 61 games. Really got sent down to Rockford halfway through the season, and really, when he came back, was a different guy, a difference maker. In the game they played Tuesday night in Columbus against probably two-thirds of Columbus's A roster, Nick Schmaltz was the best player on the ice. They're looking for him to take over the second-line center job. Right now he's centering Patrick Kane, and the other story of camp is rookie Alex DeBrincat. 5'7", 165, played in the Ontario Hockey League last 3 years actually. Had 127 points in 63 games, 65 goals in 63 games. So this kid is an elite scorer. He tore up almost every record you can have in the Ontario Hockey League. The problem is he's 5'7", and is he going to be able to take the beating of an NHL season? The offense is there for him. The concern is his two-way game. He's been focused on that. He said he knows that's what he needs to work on to play for Joel Quenneville, so that's good. At least he's self-aware. But Nick Schmaltz and Alex DeBrincat, especially DeBrincat, are going to be the stories of the preseason, and DeBrincat's another guy expected to make his debut tonight against the Red Wings at the United Center.
Spending some time with the scores, Jay Zawaski, a guy who has forgotten more about hockey than most people will ever know. He's a guy you're going to want to follow on Twitter. You're going to catch the podcast as well. Jay, is Jonathan Toews going to be back to being Jonathan Toews this year?
Well, that's a great question. I think having Brandon Saad on his left wing is going to help a lot. Since Saad has left, they've really had a problem finding consistent line mates for Jonathan Toews. Richard Panik has sort of grabbed that right wing spot with 2 pretty good years in a row. I think that they truly believe what they saw from Panik last year is real. That was 22 goals. They think that he can probably duplicate that again. And Toews this offseason has sort of refocused his training on athleticism and strength and speed and things like that. In years past, he'd sort of, it was more about flexibility. It was more about nutrition. He changed his diet big time, and I think he felt like after last year, he lacked some of that speed, some of that power that he had played with in years past. So he sort of revamped his training. And just with Brandon Saad back alone, I think that's going to be enough to get Jonathan Toews back to being the player we all know him to be. Still, people say he had a down year last year. 58 points in 72 games is nothing to laugh at. Still one of the most effective players 2 ways on the ice. An awesome hockey player, even though when the puck's not going in, he's still outstanding. But hopefully with Saad back and his, sort of rededication, strength, and speed, you'll see those numbers jump up a little bit, maybe 10, 15 more points.
Jay, bringing it locally here to Rockford, the IceHogs kick off their season in 2 weeks. First, I look at their schedule here. First game is October 7th. Anybody that people here in Rockford should get to some of these early games to get a look at before they get called up? Anybody you're excited about this down here?
Well, with all these roster competitions, with the big roster competition in Chicago, a lot of these guys are going to have to go to Rockford.
Or they're going to come down.
And there's a lot of guys that probably could play for the Hawks now, but just are going to be sort of spaced out. Alex 14 is a guy that you'll see in Rockford this year who has some scoring potential and will be part of the Blackhawks for years to come. David Kemp is a free agent they brought in from Czechoslovakia, had a very good debut the other night for the Hawks. Graham Knott had a nice game. Some names I think there's a chance that Alex DeBrincat could play in Rockford this year.
Okay.
Even if he does begin the season with the Blackhawks, anytime you have a rookie, there's almost always a slump. There's almost always a need for a reset. So you could see him down there for a spell or two. And then the others are, some guys you've seen before. Ville Polka. Big question about him this year. Is this going to finally be the year he makes that jump to the NHL? He hasn't had a look yet. He has sort of, for the last 3 years, been assumed to be the Hawks' top defensive prospect, but has not gotten that call when it was time. Joel Quenneville was not his biggest fan, but I saw Polka was talking about sort of really dedicating himself this offseason to getting in shape, getting stronger, getting more muscular. He said himself when he would look around the locker room that his body did not look like the bodies of the other players, and he was a little bit doughy and a little bit fat, and that he needed to sort of trim down and muscle up, and that's what he's done. And people are saying he looks more the part of an NHL player this year. So hopefully he'll get his look there. But look, there's a ton of guys that are going to make impact for Rockford this year. And if you want to see them play now, watch the Hawks preseason games, and you'll get a preview of some of those guys that'll be putting the puck in the net for the IceHogs.
Jay, you mentioned Joel Quenneville. Is he this upcoming season? Is he going to give John Fox a run for his money as being the worst coaching interview in sports, or is that still going to be Fox's title alone?
No one will ever dethrone John Fox as that. He is the worst of all time. Quenneville will. What I think about Q is he'll give you. He's not going to give you anything about injuries. It's just sort of a league-wide thing that no one really does. But he'll give you an honest assessment of a player. If you have to learn to speak Q. There's sometimes he'll say. How do you think, Connor Murphy played today? Oh, he was okay. If he says he was okay, it basically means he sucked. So if you're going by a sliding scale, if Q says he was okay, just know that means bad, and then work your way up from there.
I like it. All right.
You're going to practice. It's a practice learning how Q speaks. But after doing it for, almost a decade now, I've gotten pretty good at it, and I can tell you. If you ever have any questions, like, what do you mean by that? Give me a call, I'll let you know.
Yeah, but we appreciate you giving us the code book there. That does help a little bit. He did okay means he sucked. I like that.
Very nice. Jay,
basically.
Jay, one more before we get you out of here. So you have to put $500 of your own money on how far the Hawks are going to make it this year. Where do you put them? First round, second round?
This is such a cop-out. You know me, Joe, I'm not a guy that's going to back out of these sort of things. Yep. But it's so I can't even begin to guess because A, I don't know what the roster is going to look like. B, I don't know, the kids who make the roster, how are they going to be? So if I have to, you got a gun to my head.
Yep.
I'm going to say they'll probably be, I would think maybe a first round out again.
Really? Okay. But playoffs, right?
Now there's a couple of qualifiers here. If Nick Schmaltz can prove to be a second-line center and do it all year long effectively, and if Alex DeBrincat is the rookie people think he can be and plays most of the season here and adds the offense that they expect, and if Connor Murphy is the defenseman they hope he is and he develops and becomes a legitimate number 3, number 4 defenseman, and if Michael Kempy can take the next step in his career, then we can talk. But there's so many ifs that it's hard to say. And look, I said that before last year too. I said there were a lot of ifs last year too, and a lot of them came, they came to fruition. Like Ryan Hartman proved that he was an NHL player, and some of the other things. Nick Schmaltz had a good rookie year, not at center, but a good rookie year. So they were able to have the best record in the Western Conference. They met a buzzsaw in the Nashville Predators, who I think are going to win the Stanley Cup this year. But they were still a good and a competitive team. So if those ifs come true again this season, they could have another good year, and they could contend for a cup. They've got some cap space for the first time ever with Marian Hossa going on injured reserve, so if they need to make a move, they can. It's just really hard to predict today what they're going to be in April because I really have no idea. I really don't know how any of these kids are going to do in their full-time roles.
Gotcha.
Outstanding. Well, Jay, as always, we appreciate you carving time out of your day for us. We appreciate the expertise, the Q code book there. That's going to be very helpful this year. And, well, we'll be interested to see where that $500 goes at the end of the season.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to be an exciting year in Rockford, though. So tell those fans out there to go support the IceHogs. They're going to be a good young team with some new faces that are going to make big impacts for the team. So it should be an exciting year in Rockford.
We got to get you out here, bud. We'll go to a game together. I'll buy you a beer.
Anytime.
Anytime. I'll text you.
Jay, thanks.
All right.
Thanks, bud.